Let us walk together through an ordinary day in Athens, a city built on stone and sunlight, where life moved to rhythms that feel both ancient and somehow familiar. We are not here for grand events or dramatic moments, but simply to observe the quiet patterns of daily existence, the small rituals that filled the hours from dawn to dusk. There is nothing urgent waiting for us here, nothing that demands our attention. We can simply drift through these streets and courtyards, noticing what we notice, letting the details wash over us like warm Mediterranean air. The day begins before the sun has fully risen. In a modest house tucked along a narrow street, someone stirs on a simple bed, a wooden frame strung with rope or leather straps, cushioned with wool blankets, and perhaps a stuffed mattress of straw or reeds. The room is small and dim, with only a narrow window high on the wall to let in the first pale light. The air is cool, but not cold, carrying that particular stillness that belongs only to early morning, before the city has fully awakened. There is no rush to rise. The household wakes gradually, naturally, as humans have always done when there are no alarms to startle them from sleep. The walls of the house are made of sun-dried brick or stone, plastered smooth and painted in shades of red ochre or cream. The floors are hard-packed earth or clay tiles, worn smooth by years of footsteps. This is not a palace or a grand estate, but a simple dwelling where a family lives and works, eats and sleeps, argues and laughs in the gentle, ordinary way that families do. The rooms are few and small, arranged around a small courtyard open to the sky, where a bit of garden grows, and where much of the household work will take place as the day unfolds. Someone rises and wraps themselves in a chiton, a simple garment of linen or wool, draped and pinned at the shoulders, falling in soft folds to the knees or ankles. There are no complicated fastenings, no buttons or zippers, just fabric and the body moving together with an ease that comes from wearing such clothes your entire life. Feet slip into leather sandals, worn and comfortable, or perhaps remain bare on the cool floor. There is a basin for washing, water poured from a clay jug, the same simple ritual of waking that connects this moment to countless other mornings across time. The household begins to stir. In the courtyard, someone tends to a small fire, coaxing embers back to life, adding kindling and perhaps a few chunks of charcoal. The first meal of the day is simple and light, barely a meal at all by our standards. Perhaps some bread, left over from yesterday or baked fresh if there is time, dipped in wine, diluted with water, or drizzled with a bit of olive oil and honey, maybe a handful of olives, some dried figs, a piece of cheese made from goat's milk. The food is plain but good, enough to quiet the stomach and provide energy for the morning's work. Athens is waking all around, though the city never sleeps as deeply as we might imagine. Dogs bark in the distance. A rooster crows from someone's courtyard. Voices drift through the narrow streets. The soft shuffle of footsteps. The creak of a door opening. The city is built on hills. The Acropolis rising above everything else, like a crown of stone and marble, visible from almost anywhere, a constant reminder of the sacred spaces that anchor the community. But down here, in the residential quarters, life is humbler and more immediate. As the sun climbs higher, the streets begin to fill. The roads are narrow, unpaved, dusty in summer and muddy when it rains. Houses press close together, their blank outer walls presenting an austere face to the world. But inside their courtyards, there is more space and light. People move through the streets with purpose, but without great hurry. A woman balances a water jug on her shoulder, heading toward the nearest fountain house where the public water supply flows. The jug is heavy clay, smooth and cool against her skin, shaped by a potter's hands in a workshop not far from here. At the fountain house, there is conversation, the low murmur of voices, news and gossip exchanged while the water flows. This is a social space, a place to see and be seen, to learn what is happening in the neighborhood. The water is clear and cold, drawn from springs or brought by aqueduct, and it fills the jug with a pleasant splashing sound. The woman hoists the jug again, settling it carefully, and begins the walk back home, moving with the practiced balance of someone who has carried water this way 1,000 times. In the agora, the central marketplace, the day is already well underway. This is the heart of the city, a wide open space surrounded by colonnades and public buildings, where commerce and conversation flow together in an easy stream. Vendors have set up their stalls and spread their goods on blankets or wooden tables. There are vegetables brought in from the countryside, beans and lentils, onions and garlic, greens that will be boiled or eaten raw. There are olives in great abundance, some fresh, some preserved in brine, their oily richness a staple of every meal. There are wheels of cheese, sacks of grain, dried fish from the coast, their silver bodies stiff and salty. The pottery seller displays his wares, bowls and cups and storage jars in every size, some plain and utilitarian, others decorated with elegant black figures or red, scenes of daily life or mythology painted with careful hands. The scent of fresh bread drifts from a baker's stall, warm and yeasty, irresistible. Someone haggles over the price of a chicken, a live bird that clucks and fusses, held upside down by its feet. The negotiations are good-natured, a ritual as familiar as the goods themselves. People move through the agora in clusters and alone, stopping to examine goods, to greet friends, to simply stand and watch the life of the city unfold. This is more than a marketplace. It is a gathering place, a stage for public life, where citizens meet to discuss matters of the community, where philosophers might pause to debate a question of ethics or nature, where a speaker might address a crowd about some issue facing the assembly. But these grander moments happen alongside the simple business of buying bread and onions, and they happen with the same casual ease woven into the fabric of ordinary time. The sound of the agora is a gentle murmur, a blending of voices that rises and falls like waves, punctuated by the occasional laugh or the protest of a donkey. There is the clink of coins, small silver discs marked with the owl of Athena, passed from hand to hand. There is the scrape of sandals on stone, the rustle of fabric, the settling of a basket full of figs. The sun is warm now, climbing toward midday, and people seek the shade of the colonnades, the cool shelter of the covered walkways that line the square. Beyond the agora, the city extends in every direction, a maze of streets and alleyways, districts devoted to different trades and crafts. There is the potter's quarter, where workshops cluster together, sharing kilns and techniques, the air thick with the smell of wet clay and wood smoke. A potter sits at his wheel, feet working the treadle in a steady rhythm, while his hands shape the spinning clay, coaxing it upward into a vessel, a bowl or a jar. The motion is hypnotic, meditative, the same gestures repeated thousands of times until they are as natural as breathing. In another workshop, a sculptor works on a block of marble, tapping carefully with hammer and chisel, finding the form hidden in the stone. The work is slow and painstaking, a process of gradual revelation rather than sudden creation. Chips of marble dust the floor like snow, and the air tastes of stone. Nearby, a carpenter shapes wood, the plane gliding smooth across the grain, producing long curling shavings that pile at his feet. The smell of fresh cut wood is sharp and pleasant, mingling with the scent of resin and the oil used to finish the piece. These workshops are small and open to the street, allowing passers-by to watch the work in progress, to commission pieces, to simply appreciate the skill of the craftsman. There is pride in this work, a deep satisfaction in making useful and beautiful things with one's hands, in mastering a trade that has been passed down through generations. An apprentice watches his master, learning not just through instruction, but through observation and repetition, his own hands slowly gaining the strength and precision needed to shape clay or stone or wood with confidence. Midday arrives, and the heat settles over the city like a blanket. This is the time to seek shade and rest, to retreat indoors and wait for the worst of the sun to pass. In the courtyard of a house, someone reclines in the shadow of a fig tree, its broad leaves offering shelter. The main meal of the day might be taken now or later in the afternoon, depending on the rhythms of work and family. It is rarely an elaborate affair for ordinary people. More bread, more olives, perhaps a soup of lentils and vegetables, thick and nourishing. Wine is mixed with water in a large bowl. The proper ratio a matter of custom and preference, and served in shallow cups that fit comfortably in the hand. Fish might be grilled if someone has been to the market early. Small silver fish laid over hot coals, their skin crisping and splitting to reveal white flesh beneath. Or there might be cheese, or eggs, or a simple porridge of barley. Meat is a rarity for most households, reserved for festivals and special occasions, when an animal is sacrificed at a temple and the meat distributed among the worshippers. Those days are different, fuller, marked by abundance and celebration, but they are not the everyday rhythm we are following here. After the meal, there is time to rest, to let the food settle, to wait out the heat. Conversation drifts in a lazy way. Talk of small matters, plans for the afternoon, stories retold with comfortable familiarity. A child plays quietly in a corner, arranging pebbles or spinning a simple top. A cat stretches in a patch of sun that has found its way into the courtyard, utterly content. Time feels slow and expansive, unrushed, the way it does when there is nowhere urgent to be. As the afternoon begins to cool, the city stirs again. Men might make their way to the gymnasium, a public space for exercise and education, where they can wrestle or run, practice throwing the discus or javelin, bathe in the cool water of the public baths. These are places of social gathering as much as physical training, where friends meet and talk, where ideas are exchanged as freely as news of the day. The body and mind are both attended to here, both valued, both cultivated with care. Women's lives follow different patterns, centered more on the household and the management of the domestic sphere. There is spinning and weaving to be done, the endless work of turning raw wool into thread, thread into fabric, fabric into clothing and blankets, and all the textiles a household needs. The spindle turns, the wool twists and lengthens, the rhythm as steady as breathing. At the loom, someone weaves, the shuttle passing back and forth, the pattern emerging row by row, a meditation of sorts, a productive use of time that allows the mind to wander. There are children to tend, meals to prepare, the household to organize and maintain. There is shopping to be done, though often through slaves or servants, if the household can afford them, or personally if not. There are social visits, time spent with female relatives and neighbours, conversations in the women's quarters, the sharing of advice and stories, the quiet solidarity of shared experience. The light begins to soften as the afternoon slides toward evening. Shadows grow longer, stretching across the streets and courtyards. The heat releases its grip, and a breeze might stir, carrying the scent of the sea or the dry earth beyond the city walls. People begin to think about the evening meal, the last food of the day, another simple affair of bread and wine, olives and cheese, perhaps some vegetables, the leftovers from midday. In the agora, vendors begin to pack their goods, folding blankets, stacking baskets, calling final offers to passers-by. The crowds thin, people drifting homeward or toward other evening activities. Some men gather for symposia, drinking parties that are as much about conversation and music as about wine. Gatherings where philosophers and friends debate and discuss, where songs are sung and poetry recited. But these are evening entertainments for some, not all, and they unfold in private houses, not in the public space we are observing here. The streets grow quieter as twilight deepens. Lamps are lit inside houses, small clay vessels filled with olive oil, a wick floating in the liquid, producing a soft, flickering light that pushes back the darkness without truly banishing it. By this light, the evening's work continues for a while, mending or cleaning, quiet tasks that require little concentration. Or perhaps there is simply conversation, the day's events recounted and discussed. plans made for tomorrow. Children are put to bed, bundled in blankets, their breathing gradually slowing and deepening. The household settles into its nighttime quiet, the sounds of the city growing more distant, more diffuse. A dog barks somewhere. Footsteps pass in the street outside, fading into silence. The moon rises, if there is a moon tonight, casting silver light over the rooftops and the Acropolis, over the olive groves beyond the walls and the dark sea in the distance. In the courtyard, the last lamp flickers and dims. Someone draws a blanket closer against the cool night air. The city of Athens breathes slowly, thousands of lives folding into sleep, into dreams, into the deep rest that will prepare them for another day. There is a continuity to this, a sense that these patterns have repeated for countless nights and will repeat for countless more, that the rhythms of waking and sleeping, working and resting are as eternal as the stars that watch over the city, and we can let ourselves drift into that same rest, into the peace of knowing that life continues in its gentle cycles, that there is comfort in the ordinary, in the daily rituals that connect us across time. The streets are quiet now. The lamps are dimming. The night settles soft and deep over Athens, and we can settle with it, letting go into sleep, into the vast and ancient quiet. Rest well.